don't want to get into trouble. We've got about 13 people who are joining, who have already joined. Maybe we could wait for a couple of minutes
Sure.
before we get started.
And is Sarah connected? Our special
Yes, Sarah is here. How are you, Sarah? I just wanted to confirm, thank you everyone for joining in. Can you just give me a show of hands that you can all hear me, please? Awesome, awesome. That's great. Thank you, everyone. And Sarah is muted for the moment, but Sarah is a panelist as well.
Awesome.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. I can see you. Hey, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Chrissy too. Good evening. Yep. How are you? Oh, is that your little one?
Got myself a guest speaker here.
Good, good. Excellent, excellent. Well, as they say, catch them young.
Yes, yes. You say hello, everybody.
Hello, sweetheart. Aren't you beautiful? Good girl. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how Mummy's been going.
You like going on adventure walks with Mummy?
No. How old is she, Sarah?
So she is 2 at the moment. She'll be 3 in August.
Adorable age, just the best.
And I've got a little boy who no doubt will hear us talking and come running. This is how.
Yeah.
He won't want to miss out. No.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Mine are 8 and 10.
Okay.
They think what I'm doing is very uncool. So they're downstairs happily not participating.
Oh no, I'm trying to get her to go and have a shower with Dad, but she's just not having a bar of it tonight.
Fair enough. That's
So,
all.
Danny, what do you think? It's on the dot, 7?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's get started.
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Session 7. Hey, we're
I know.
I know, it's amazing. And
We've come a long way.
we have, and it's been entertaining to say the least. And tonight's about exercising to energize. Not exercising necessarily for weight loss, which is often what we sort of think that, oh, we got to exercise for weight loss, but it's not necessarily the case, although it could be a byproduct of, exercise for sure. So we're going to be looking at that a little bit in detail tonight. I'm going to do a quick little presentation on how I use exercise. And then we're going to hear from our special guest, Sarah, and she's a physical education teacher who had bariatric surgery, I think 12 months ago now with you, Dr. Arun, is that right?
Yeah, and we'll hear from Sarah, of course.
Yeah, we'll hear from Sarah and she'll tell us her story and how, as a physical education teacher, where it's all about fitness and that, her journey with exercise. So we're looking forward to hearing that. So without further ado, if you're happy, I'll start my presentation. Would that be okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. Go for it.
If I can share, if you can get rid of the disabled part, I will share my screen. Yeah. Still a bit disabled here.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's have a look here. Okay. Share. Have a look here. Sorry. Okay. So this is mine. Okay. Here we go. Present. All right. So basically, this is my story with exercise. I don't know if you can relate or not, possibly, maybe not, but this has basically been my story. Now, can everybody see that screen okay? Hands up if you can. Yep, awesome. Okay, so if you're like me or were like me, you probably think that exercise is something that you should have to fit into your life to keep your weight under control, or it's something you use in order to undo damage of overindulging and stuff like that. If you're like me, you probably end up finding that it becomes a chore because you feel like, oh, I better go do this exercise or I'm going to put on weight. And then because it becomes something you feel you need to do to keep control of your weight, it becomes time consuming, hard work, tiring, boring, and even painful. So it's just like a diet. It's unsustainable long term if you use exercise, and that's what I've found, only because you're doing it to achieve weight loss or stop yourself from putting on weight and so forth. That's my experience, and I don't know if anybody can relate with that. Has anyone sort of felt that they need to exercise? Just a show of hands of need to exercise to keep, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, quite a few. Exactly. And look, I remember in my late 20s, actually, I became obsessed with exercise. I used to go to the gym I was not overweight or anything, but I decided I needed to keep my weight at what I considered healthy. And I'd go to the gym every second day. And in between those days, I would jog, and I would jog around my neighborhood. And I used to think, okay, I've got to jog further now, and I've got to beat that time, and I've got to just keep on going until I'm just going further and further, burning more and more calories and doing better, you know. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the same effect, and my weight's not going to stay stable, or it's not going to drop, and before you know it, I'll be putting on weight. Well, I can tell you now, I ended up injured, which, you know, you can't push your body that far, especially if you're pushing it for the wrong reasons. And I remember I actually had an inflamed diaphragm. I went to see my doctor, said, I've got this burning pain down here. What's going on? And she asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm just jogging 10 Ks a day, you know, going to the gym. I thought I was doing the right thing. And she said, I think you've inflamed your diaphragm from all the jogging. So that was my story when I used to exercise for weight loss. So clearly I stopped that. I was exhausted, didn't work, and it wasn't fun after a while. So let's have a look at exercising to energize. And this is something that I've had to learn the hard way, but it's great. Now I exercise because it's something I want to do for many other reasons, and weight loss or weight maintenance is the byproduct, and it's a bonus, if you like. So when I exercise, I look at exercising to increase my energy. I look at exercise as something spontaneous. So it's not something rigid that must be done daily. It's something that, you know, it might just pop up, that all of a sudden the kids and I, let's go for a bike ride, you know, and off we go. It's not something that I've scheduled that must be done rigidly, because I know that once I start doing that, it becomes nearly an obsessive thing. Also, I've exercised to improve my mental health. Like when I'm feeling flat and stuff like that, I think, you know, I could easily stay in bed, but I won't. I'm actually going to go for a walk. And I find that I feel more energized. I really do. Even though I'm so tired, I find that the exercise has actually increased my energy, which you would think the opposite. You know, and it's something that's uplifting. If you exercise and it's an uplifting feeling, then you're on the right track. If you're moving and doing exercise, but you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling like you've got to push past the pain barrier or whatever, and it's nearly something that you're worried that you're not going to achieve what you should be, then the pleasure's gone out the window, and it becomes a chore. But also I've noticed that when I do activities to exercise, to energize, it is addictive, but in a healthy way. It's like, oh, this is fun. I'm dancing. I want to dance more. I want to learn some more dance moves. I just want to keep moving. And that's when I know I'm exercising for the right reasons. And of course, it's rewarding in so many ways. I mean, being able to move, run, bike ride, dance, and just keep up with my kids is something life-changing for me. So that's exercising to energize.
Just on that note, there was a comment from the audience, Danny, that exercise is actually the most powerful antidepressant pill. And actually, it is very true.
Without doubt, without doubt. And I think we underestimate that power that it has. And so, yeah, like I said, some days, and this is the thing, depression makes you want to stay in bed. It really drains you. And I know from experience, it's so hard to tackle the day. And sometimes just pushing yourself to get out there and move releases a lot of that depressed sort of feeling, and you're able to get through the rest of the day. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to push through what your natural depression is saying to you to do, but it's worth it in the end. So I'll just go through the next slide, which is, let's look at exercising for weight loss versus exercising to energize. So like I've mentioned, exercising for weight loss is, you know, how much can you lose, and how hard can I push myself to achieve that result? And when you don't get that target, you feel guilty. You'll push yourself too hard and then not enjoy it, and like myself, injure yourself. And I'm sure many people have injured themselves by pushing their body ridiculously. You know, it's not necessarily good to be an elite athlete, because most of them end up having to retire because they're injured, because they're doing the same repetitive motion over and over again. That's not necessarily conducive to wellness and good health. And you start to resent having to keep exercising to keep the weight under control. It's nearly something you think, oh, it's another chore, something has to be done. And again, you end up needing, I don't know if you've heard this before, but it's like you need to even do more to get the same results. And so it's nearly, you know, an unfulfilled prophecy that you just can't keep maintaining the weight loss or the calories burnt and stuff like that. So exercising to energize, losing weight is a byproduct. You know, it doesn't have to be scheduled. It can be just part of everyday life. It can be done as part of a social activity, you know, or when you're running an errand and stuff like that. Like, I will walk to the chemist. I will walk to the post office. I will walk to McDonald's to get my favorite coffee. I am exercising, but I'm also doing things that I enjoy at the same time. And I'm sort of using time efficiently, like I'm doing errands as well, that sort of stuff. I also get dressed in my favorite gym gear every day. Anyone would think I'm going to the gym, but I'm not. I'm just getting dressed in my favorite gym gear. I feel good in it. I like the way I look, and I'm ready to go. If something pops up, bang, the kids come home and they want to do something. Let's go bike riding. I'm already dressed for the occasion. So there's no excuses where I say, oh, I'm too dressed up today. I don't think I can do this today, kids. You know, so I'm ready for any activity that might come my way. And if it produces a feeling of fun, uplifts the spirit, making you want to do it more, then you're exercising to energize. And you can get creative with it. And my favorite thing is dancing. And yep, I do TikTok dances and record them all the time. And I'm looking at TikTok, trying to find another one that I can learn. And, you know, it's something that you get creative with. So it's fun. So these are the things
Danny, just one quick thing just before you move to the next slide. And it's pertinent that, you know, when exercise is being used as a weight loss strategy, as you mentioned, the biggest challenge is when you stop engaging in that exercise routine, the weight almost always comes back. And as one of the attendees has also mentioned, weight comes back with a vengeance.
Well, that's exactly right. And it's the same as when you're dieting.
Yeah,
because you're putting your body in an unnatural state to achieve an unnatural result. And the minute you stop that and go back to what the body's made for, which is not extreme exercise or not extreme dieting, the body says, oh, great, now let me just store all this fat because, you know, the person was trying to starve me or was trying to make me, you know, very skinny. So that's something that happens, unfortunately. So just like I was explaining, I do the housework. Yeah, go on.
I think it'll be really worthwhile asking the audience that how do they resonate with your, I really love this slide that you presented that, you know, what is the difference between, if you can just go back one more time to the previous slide, like what does exercise for weight loss versus exercise for energizing mean? Because really you're looking for that vitality. And just wanted to ask the audience, you know, what do you feel about it? It is like almost, to me, it appears this is like the aha moment where you have so beautifully summarized and compared the two, and such a difference, stark difference between the two sets or two sort of, you know, exercise strategies over there.
Yeah, and it's come from experience. You know, it's not something that I knew from the beginning. And again, it's a journey, and I've learned it. And I can say now that I don't listen to that word exercise and think, oh gosh, I hate that. You know, I look at it as, oh, yeah, great. It's part of my life, but it's not something that has weight loss involved in it at all. And that's what I think makes it sustainable. So just here, some of the things that I do just the other day, housework with my favorite dance music going on in the background. I'm so glad no one can video that because it's a funny thing to see me mopping and vacuuming while the music's going. But I tell you, you achieve exercise, you know, you're using different muscle groups and you achieve something. The house was sparkling, you know, so I felt a sense of achievement and I was sweating, you know, so that's an example. I told you that I walk wherever I can instead of driving. During this COVID-19, when I had to speak with my clients, and I think one of them is online tonight, I'd FaceTime and we'd go for a walk. So we walked and talked on FaceTime. So it's wonderful. We're out there walking, there's talking going on, coaching, mentoring, therapy, whichever way you want to word it, and it's fantastic. I say yes to any activity that is fun and makes me move more, even if I regret it after, because I've done stuff like bounce trampolining with the kids, and then after I'm like, okay, maybe I am in my late 40s and maybe that wasn't a good idea. But you know, it's that sort of stuff. And then nights out dancing. I love African music, so I'll go to a venue like that. I love it. Bike riding, playing basketball with my son, etc. And yeah, and I deliberately set out to do projects that require physical exertion. You can just ask my family. Sometimes the kids will get home from school and I've rearranged the furniture in their room or whatever. And I love doing that sort of stuff. And look, a year ago, I couldn't move. So this is an amazing turnaround.
That's your way of doing resistance training from the sounds of it, Danny.
Exactly. And you're using muscles that you didn't even know you had. And you know you're using them. And the next day when you go, oh, okay, oh, that's a bit, but it's fine, you know, because you're achieving something at the same time. Gardening, putting together furniture. My favourite is painting. I painted my daughter's cubby house to make it water resistant. You know, that sort of stuff. And you're just using muscles in your arms and things that you wouldn't probably be able to tackle training, you know. I told you I live in my workout gear unless I'm actually at work, which is a different thing, but you know, which is great, no excuse. And when I'm really tired, which I mentioned before, but this is sometimes I'm overly tired and I can't sleep. And so I wake up very early in the morning and I'm tired. And I decide, well, you know what, I'm going to go for a walk. And I've seen more sunrises this year than in my whole life. And they're absolutely beautiful. And it's amazing. I feel more invigorated. When I get home, the tiredness is sort of gone. So, you know, sometimes we think, I'm tired, maybe I need to sleep. But if you can't, maybe you need to move. It's an interesting concept, but I think there's some truth in that. And I've only learned that from my own experiences.
And I think there is something therapeutic about seeing the sunrise. Would you agree, Danny? Like, even if you're tired, it just refreshes you.
It's amazing. And to be honest with you, I've not been a morning person all my life. But now I want to get up and I want to tackle the day as soon as I can, because hey, it's a precious time, you know, every day is so precious and I really enjoy that. So it's not all the time, obviously, but I've noticed that that works for me. And yoga and morning yoga, which I've been doing with Dr. Arun, which has been a great program. And some mornings I'm like, oh, how can we do this at this time of the morning, honestly, you know, and it's a Sunday morning, mind you. But the moment I start engaging in that, again, I'm just like energized and I feel fantastic. And the rest of the day is usually a very positive one. So I'll leave you with this because I think I've talked too much as usual, but I'll leave you with this. This is a quote that I saw on Facebook. She believed she could, but she was really tired and kind of lazy and would also rather stay home with her dog while drinking wine, so she didn't. Now, how about if we changed that narrative to, okay, she believed she could, but she was really tired and kind of lazy and would also rather stay home with the dog while drinking wine. But she decided to go for a walk with the dog instead because she knew that this would actually energize her, that so when she got home, she could enjoy her wine or dancing around to her favorite music. So it's not, you know, either or, it's both. You know, you can do it all and make it part of life. Enjoy your wine, you know, enjoy life and stuff like that, but incorporate movement into it and you'll feel more alive and you'll feel like doing more. So
that's very nicely put, Danny.
I love creating these things. It's so much fun. I should probably run them past you before I put them on.
That's all right. You have my permission to do it. No problem.
So that's fine. So anyone have any questions about my presentation? This is coming from a consumer's perspective, having experienced, you know, exercise in different forms and so forth.
Well, I can read them out too because I'm co-hosting. You know, I think the comments have been fairly encouraging, and the concept of FaceTime calls and you know, walking simultaneously. I think it's a novel concept. It's novel to me, but it's great. And essentially it gives you a walking partner virtually.
Yeah,
And that's a great
absolutely.
thing,
Well,
isn't
we
it?
couldn't be together. You weren't allowed to. And the thing is, you know, the clients also need to get some motivation and get out there. And to be honest, we'd push
Correct.
each other, and it worked really well, really well.
Yeah.
I'm still doing that now, to be honest. So yeah,
Yeah. No,
I'll
that's
escape out of this and stop the sharing so that we can go to Sarah, because I would
yeah.
love to hear what she has to say, being a physical education teacher, and whether anything I've said resonates with her. And
Before
or
Sarah
not.
starts, I just want to make a disclaimer here that neither myself nor Danny are PE teachers or PE qualified. So we want to give a clear disclaimer over here, but we are talking out of our own personal experiences, and I'll share my journey after Sarah's presentation, so that Sarah doesn't get a chance to criticize my presentation. The expert here. She's the only one who's qualified, you know.
Although I've got my red pen out and I've
Oh
been
my
taking
God.
Have you? Oh
You're
no.
both teachers, you know, so I kind of feel doubly scared.
But I'm a music teacher. It doesn't count.
But you're still a teacher, you know, so I have
Just
got
a
great
bit.
reverence for teachers. So, Sarah, we
too.
are so grateful to you for, taking out the time on this busy evening. I know it can be challenging with kids and dinner time and all of that. So we're so looking forward to hearing from you about what was your personal journey and how did you put tools, especially in relation to exercise, to, what you could potentially share with our audience.
Absolutely. And whilst I am now, I'm hoping I just share my screen. I need permission to share my
I
screen.
will just make you the co-host right now.
Thank
There you are.
Excellent. And I should be able to share this with you now.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay. Let me go. So, I do just want to say, just on your presentation there, Danny, you spoke about you haven't seen the sunrise as much as what you have this year. I'm a big fan of morning exercise myself, and I have it in my mind where I'm working towards a specific goal at the moment, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it means that I'm up and out the door at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday morning.
Wow.
Because it's the only time of the day that I can fit a walk that long in.
Yeah.
I think there is something I like something really special about watching the world wake up. Like when I leave, I'm lucky to see, 2 cars on the road. And then by the time I sort of do the loop and walking back, there's blokes on construction sites and there's like the world's just sort of waking up. I think there's something really, really cool, really unique about that. So,
absolutely.
But I'm home before the sun rises. So I'm hoping
maybe you need to sleep in a little bit more, Sarah.
Maybe.
I've got to be at home in time to get the kids ready for daycare. So
I know.
No, good.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Davies, and I first met Dr. Arun last year when I was 34 years old. I was married, still am, but I was a married lady and a mum of 2 beautiful kids. My little boy Nate was 3 when I first met Dr. Arun, and my little girl was 1. I started my weight loss journey at 132 kilos in the June of 2019, so I'm coming up to a year, and I was a size 22, and this is what I looked like at the time. And it has been mentioned a couple of times that I was a PE teacher, and it got to the point, if I'm being really honest, that I stopped referring to myself as a PE teacher and just as a teacher, because I was sort of a bit humiliated by where I had gotten to in life. And, for years and years and years, I taught students about good nutrition and the importance of exercise, yet I clearly didn't live it. So now, currently, I'm 35. I'm still married. My 2 beautiful children are still here. Nate's now 4. Izzy's now 2. I weigh 89 kilos or thereabouts, although I will admit I've given up weighing myself. But more happily, I'm a size 14. And so this is me now. And for a nice little close-up shot of where I was and where I am. That's about 11 months, 10 months difference between those 2 photos there. So with that being said, pre-op, being a PE teacher, I always did have this this like or this love of exercise. Growing up, I played netball a couple of times a week. A similar sort of thing was in the gym. I always found this happiness with exercise, and I have always been a bigger sort of girl. I've always sort of struggled with my weight, if I'm being honest, and sort of hovered around that size 18 kind of mark, which for the most part I was sort of happy with where I was at. And then, as we know, I became a mum, and all of those things that I did my pre-mum life that I really loved, so going to the gym or going to play netball with my friends and things like that, it's sort of, all of those feelings of happiness were replaced by feelings of guilt, like guilt for leaving the baby, guilt for quote unquote making my husband watch the kids whilst I went and played netball and had fun. I felt like I really felt in the beginning that to be a good mum, I had to give everything that I had to my kids and my family, which meant that there was sort of no time left for me. So the first thing that went for me was that exercise, because it was the thing that I did for myself that brought me happiness, that was, for want of a better phrase, the easiest thing to give up. Because it wasn't only like I would take my son to netball with me, but then I found that I was sort of watching him on the side of the court more than I was watching the game. So then I felt guilty because I wasn't giving my team the best. I felt guilty because I wasn't giving my son my attention at that time and things like that. So I just sort of got myself into this really depressive rut. And I don't know if anyone else can identify this. That
Definitely, Sarah. Just as a mum myself, you know, that word guilt, mother's guilt, I mean, it's just, it's so common. And it's like how I'm not allowed to do things for myself because there's other people, little ones relying on me. So that would be selfish. And you can't give to yourself or to others because of that guilt, you know. And I think that's so common. And
also the guilt associated with leaving, like my husband would work all day, like I was on maternity leave, but my husband would work all day, and then I felt like I shouldn't leave the baby at home with him while I went to the gym because that wasn't fair on him. I should be home to help.
And that's the thing, we equate, well, he's at work, I'm at home, but you're at work too. You are working 24/7, you know. But that's the misconception, that if you're going out of the house, well, that's considered work. And if you're in the house where you're not working, oh, yes, you are, you know. And that's the thing, you've earned the time for yourself. But that's the mother's guilt that a lot of women go through, I think.
Absolutely. You know? So then Nate was 16 months old when I fell pregnant with Izzy. So then that guilt amplified after having 2 kids. And so instead of taking Nate to netball, I just stopped playing netball because I felt, how could I possibly take kids to netball? How could I possibly leave 2 kids at home when Joel had worked all week and things like that? So as I said, slowly I just sort of gave up all of those things. And then when I got to a point where I felt like the kids were a bit older and they weren't necessarily so reliant on me, so by the time Izzy hit, 12, 18 months, I felt like I could leave her for a little while. I had gotten so big that to exercise actually physically hurt me for the first time in my life. Like I developed plantar fasciitis, my back really hurt. I just felt so big that I couldn't move. And look, to be honest, I had 2 shocking sleepers, and I went back to work when Izzy was 7 months old. So it wasn't uncommon for me to be awake at 10, at midnight, at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and then up for the day at 5. And then I'd work full time. And so because I was on such bad sleep, my eating habits were horrendous because I always felt sick. I was so tired. And then because I was eating to stop feeling sick, I was putting on the weight, and then the weight made it so painful to exercise. And I just sort of got in this rut. And for me, exercise pre-op, after post-kids, but pre-op almost essentially dried up. And as you said, I'm a PE teacher. I was on my feet all day and I was just in agony with it. So through the surgery, I now view exercise in 2 very different categories, or 2 very different ways. So I have this view of exercise being a shared joy. And so that's when I involve other people in this whole exercise experience. And often those people are my babies, or my families, where we go and do things together. The pace of that shared joy exercise is very much determined by others, particularly when they're 2 and 4 years of age. And one of the greatest things about it is just seeing the happiness that it brings the kids and the family to be out together. Then I also see exercise and this self-joy. And so this self-joy is when I exercise on my own. It's very much goal-driven. The pace is certainly determined by me. And for me, a lot of the self-satisfaction comes with reaching my goals. And see, neither one of these lists have I talked about weight loss or weight management.
Yeah.
Because it's, to me, so much more than that. Now, when and how did I start? So after the operation, I know, look at this. So I had my operation on the 27th of June. I started pre-op on the 13th, and this is, I had the op on the 27th. This photo here that we're looking at was taken on the 30th of June.
Wow, so, you didn't waste time.
Yeah, exactly. You were out of the hospital.
You were out there.
I was so...
You're in a rush.
I was so ready to make these life changes. As I said, I'd gotten myself into this rut that I really wasn't happy with. And speaking to Dr. Arun before the surgery, you spoke a lot about making lifestyle changes. And I took that really seriously right from the start. Now, this day we walked around the block. It wasn't far, it wasn't fast, but for me, it was important to start right from the start and to involve my kids and involve my family in this new way of life for myself. And so anyone that is at a point where they're not knowing when or how to start, my greatest piece of advice to you is pop your runners on and just do one lap. Yeah. Just get out there for that one lap around the block, and then next week, get out there twice for 2 laps, and then just slowly build it up little bit by little bit. Pop your earphones on, or grab your kids or whatever it might be. But just the hardest part, they say the hardest part of exercise is putting your runners on and
Absolutely.
Just walking out that front door.
I could attest to that. I think a lot of people, Sarah, are just scared. Well, they think, well, if I can only do one lap, what's the point? You know, but the thing is that encourages you to do the second lap the next time, you know.
Exactly
and
right.
Motivation is a motivator, you know, and so that's why, you know, it's important to just start. And that removes the guilt too, that you're taking your children with you, which is beneficial to them, and you're all out, you know, enjoying exercise, you know.
Exactly right. Well, Mother's Day this year, this is us on Mother's Day this year, and as I said, we call it adventure walking in our house when we go adventure walking. So when we get out in nature together and we pick up sticks and we look at trees and things like that. So on Mother's Day, in the height of COVID, we were allowed out as a family to exercise. So that's exactly what we did. And it was one of the happiest Mother's Days. We went to Kilmore, so I live in the northern suburbs. So we went up to a little walking track in Kilmore, and it wouldn't have been more than a 400-metre walk that took us close to an hour. Now, it wasn't exactly fast-paced, and we spent 20 minutes throwing rocks in the pond because that was what the kids wanted to do. But to be out there and sharing that experience, the kids are out there walking, and being the health nerd that I am, you know, they were developing not only positive habits and positive mindset and things like that, they were also developing fine and gross motor skills. So picking up rocks and throwing rocks, which is only going to benefit. They're like when we climb on rocks or, you know, jump over sticks and things like that, it's all developing those fine or those gross motor skills, which, as I said, I'm a big nerd for.
It's anyways far better, Sarah, than playing on the PlayStation or...
Well, exactly right. Exactly right. I know we spent a lot of time in your office talking about green time, and that was something that really resonated with me, and hopefully you can sum it up a bit better than what I can. But what I took from our talk was that in order for us to make positive changes in our subconscious, we need to lower our stress inhibitors. And one of the best ways to do that is to be out in nature. And so I really took that conversation seriously. And as I said, we started doing more and more adventure walks as a family, and just watching the kids just out there enjoying picking up sticks, throwing rocks, all that sort of stuff. We spent time at the beach. So I went down to the beach with the kids. We spent an hour down there just looking at the rock pools, climbing through the caves. So once again, that gross motor skill development, like climbing up over rocks. So as I said, the health nerd in me looks at the problem solving that the kids have to go through with that. They've got to navigate the rocks so they don't fall in the water and stuff like that. And they're only 2 and 4, but they're able to do all of these things. So as a mum, I think we want the best for our kids. I certainly want to try and give my kids the best we can. And so exposing them to all these different experiences that they certainly wouldn't have if I didn't share this joy of exercise with them. And so we spend, as I said, a lot of time out together, just doing lots of different things. And often Daddy comes along for a walk too. So we involve the whole family, and it's just a great time for us. As I said, it's got positive health benefits for myself and for Joel, because although we might not walk far, we often end up walking with an extra couple of kilos on our back.
Yeah, you're doing your resistance training. That's
More
right.
value for your time.
Especially, and they always seem to want to get up there on the uphill bit, never the downhill.
Of course. Yeah.
Um,
I love that. That's adorable.
Then I look at this idea of self-joy, and this is probably where, this is right in my wheelhouse at the moment. As I said to you before, I had my operation on the 27th, which meant I started my pre-op on the 13th. And I don't know if all of you out there like me, you sort of notice the dates tick along. So I'm coming up to a year on Saturday of doing pre-op, starting my pre-op. Now, when I first had the operation done, I was out exercising very slowly, but very soon afterwards. And for me, one of the biggest deciding factors in me getting the operation was I got to myself, right, and enough is enough. I'm going to really crack down and exercise and things like that. And I physically could not run 200 meters. At 132 kilos, I couldn't do it. And that just, as a phys ed teacher, as a health educator, it just about broke my soul, honestly, if I'm being really honest. It really devastated me. And that's when I thought, I really need help here. And so for me, setting little goals was really, really important for this self-joy. I haven't always been able to run. I hate running, if I'm being really honest, and I still to this day dislike running immensely.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the things I really wanted to do was I wanted to be able to run that 200 meters. And if I'm being really honest, I started running in the gym on the treadmill, and 2 minutes was a struggle for me. But I'd run for 2 minutes, and then I'd walk for 3 minutes, and then I'd run for 2, and then I'd walk for 3, until I had run 10 minutes collectively. And then after a while, I would run for 3 minutes and walk for 2, 3 minutes, walk for 2. And I sort of then was like, right, well, now I'll try and run for 5 minutes. And so over a number of weeks, I was able to build up to running for 10 minutes continuously. And for me, that was one of the first big goals that I met in this new journey that I had had. And then from there, it was like, right, well, once I've run 10 minutes, I want to try and run 2 kilometers. And then I want to try and run 3, up until 5. 5K was like my big goal to have. And then I did it, which was fantastic. But then ISO hit. So I was like, right, well, we've got time in isolation. I'm going to spend this time. I'm going to run 10 kilometers. That's going to be my big goal. And after 2 days of running outside, and anyone that's gone from treadmill running to outdoor running will know how very different it is.
Oh, yeah. Not the same at all.
I honestly must have one of the most horrendous running styles, because I was in agony. After 2 days of running, I thought, I can't do this. And I could feel those excuses starting to creep in, like, oh, it looks like it's going to rain, better not go. Well, it looks pretty windy, no, better not go. Oh, it's pretty late, I've got to get dinner on, better not go. And I thought, no, I have to stop that. Like, I have to readjust my mindset so that I am setting myself new goals. And so once I shifted that mindset from I have to run 10K to walking, my world changed. And this self-satisfaction I get from walking now and having different goals in my walking. So my first goal was to be able to walk 3K in under 30 minutes, which I did. And then I thought, right, well, I wonder if I can walk for 10 kilometers. Didn't care how long it took, but can I walk for 10K? And I could. And then I was like, well, if I can walk for 10K, can I walk for 15? And I did. And then for me, as you know, Saturday is the anniversary of pre-op, and I'm celebrating that, and I use that word with a smile because I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. I'm celebrating that by running a half marathon. Now, if you had said to me a year ago when I couldn't run 200 meters that I'd be excited at the prospect of walking a half marathon, I would have told you in no uncertain terms to go away. But that sense of achievement, that sense of satisfaction, that sense of joy for myself in achieving something that I've set my mind to is so powerful. Yeah. And you mentioned before, you spoke about getting on the phone and talking to people. I've got a fantastic group of friends who have been so supportive. They were all the skinny girls when we were all friends together, and I was the chubby friend over there being but they have just been so supportive to the point where one of the girls will get up at 6:45 with me, and she lives in Ballarat. She's going to walk the 21.1 with me from her end. I've got another friend who's just had her third baby. She's like, I can do 7. I can walk 7K. There's a nice little track near home. So this celebration of how far I've come, this butterfly moment that God has been so beautifully supported by some friends. So whilst this falls in the self-joy category predominantly, there's also that element of shared joy in exercising as well.
And I think what's great about that, Sarah, is that you adjusted your expectations as you went along. And that's the beauty of it, you know, that you thought, well, I can't quite run the 10Ks, but I'll walk it, you know, and that's the flexibility. You're out there and become something that you're enjoying. You're becoming energized from the exercise, not putting that extra pressure, and then you end up achieving more than you thought you would anyway in the end.
Absolutely. And like you spoke about that slide you had where the difference between exercise for weight loss and for Energise, and on the weight loss side you had guilt, and that didn't appear on the Energise side. And I think that's also a really powerful thing, is when we have it in our mindset that we feel guilty if we don't do exercise. I think that's when our mindsets, I don't want to say the word wrong because it's not what I mean, but I think that's when the mindset needs to be adjusted, because to have that guilt, we shouldn't associate exercise and guilt together. We shouldn't feel bad for not doing it if we're sick or something like that. And I think that's
absolutely. And you probably had the added pressure being a physical education teacher that, oh, well, I should be able to jog 10Ks. I mean, how am I going to teach my kids if I can't do it myself? You know, so it's, I'm amazed that you've been able to remove that guilt and go, no, I'm moving, I'm doing stuff and I'm achieving, you know.
Well, one of the guys I work with, and my work people have been fabulous as well, so supportive throughout this. They've been really quite... I've been really open and upfront with them. My life is an open story. My kids know, like my students know exactly where I've been, what I've done. I use it a lot in class, actually. I'm actually talking about private health insurance and Medicare today, and the surgery and the cost of surgery came up in that. So
that's great.
As far as kids are concerned. But one of the guys...
What is for kids now?
Over the isolation break, like I spent a lot of time really trying to role model good practice for kids as well. So we had Microsoft Teams, so I'd often be out walking, so I'd send them off on their way, and then I'd go out and exercise too, and then sort of we have a call at the end, and often I'd still be out walking once their class ended. So just sort of role modeling that good behavior as well.
And Sarah, one other thing which I noticed that you have incorporated very creatively with your friends living in Ballarat and wherever, is that you have actually created a community which also creates an accountability. And I believe that, you know, having that partnership in this day and age with virtual, technology available, you could create accountability partners in any part of the world.
Absolutely.
Hold you accountable that, hey, you haven't achieved your goal, or let's do it together now. And that's the beauty of technology now.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And one of the girls, so the girl that's walking the 21K with me, we used to be housemates. We went to kinder together. We go back a long, long way. And it was almost like she could sense in the beginning, you know, when you're really trying to establish good routine, and it's easy to sort of not go one day, and then because you didn't go yesterday, you didn't go the day after, and it's really easy to kind of lose your way when you're making those foundational life changes. And I'll never forget it. It was like she could sense it without even saying anything. I hadn't sort of done any form of exercise in about 8 days. And she just sent me a message out of the blue and said, how's it all going? Have you been to the gym lately? And it was just sort of like this, that absolutely what you're saying there, that accountability. It's like she could just sense, she knew me well enough, or I don't know what it was. Maybe I hadn't sent enough Snapchats that week. I don't know.
Intuitive connection, I think.
But yeah, as the PE teacher, I sort of set kids challenges. So we had a few beat the teacher competitions throughout the isolation period and things like that. So this time here that we're looking at, this is my time from Wednesday. So I took it in the middle of class when I was putting this together. But for me, one of the other things that I really try and live by at the moment is to make time, not excuses. So I spent 2 decades coming up with wonderful excuses as to why I couldn't. Whereas now I really try and focus on making time. So I walk with one of the ladies from work, one of my good friends from work. We walk together every Monday, but she's very understanding of the fact that I've got kids and little ones. So we leave at 7:30 at night and walk 10K on a Monday night. So 7:30 to 9:30 thereabouts, because we do a bit of chit-chatting. And I leave the house at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and I do my 15 or 16K on a Wednesday morning, and then try to get another couple of walks in throughout the week. So just about, well, I just really love that satisfaction, that feeling of accomplishment and achievement. And I, despite what my face says in this one here, I really try, as I said, I try to make time and not excuses. And I say to the kids at school all the time when they start to whinge about it being a little bit rain, I'm like, your skin's waterproof. So I really try and live by that as well. So rain, hail or shine, I do try and get out there and go for those walks and hold myself accountable, but also I know how happy it makes me. And if I'm being honest, there are some days where, particularly in isolation, in those initial days, I was a very, very short and cranky mum. And Joel would say to me, just go for a walk, love.
Thank you for your therapy, your walk.
Yeah, because you know that I'd come home an hour and a half later, a completely different person.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to, there's me walking my work gear as well. So making no excuses. At lunchtime, duck out if I need to. But it brings me on to my next point and talking about how exercise has benefited my journey and being the health nerd I am, physically, mentally, socially. So there's obvious physical benefits of weight loss, but I also feel like it's had a really big impact on the range of potential health problems that I could have absolutely succumbed to. I had gestational diabetes in both my pregnancies and was on insulin before 20 weeks in both pregnancies. So I was very diabetic, if it goes on a scale. My mother and my father were both type 2 diabetics, and both of my grandmothers were diabetics. And when I first met Dr. Dhir, I was sitting in that pre-diabetes category. Whereas, although I haven't got my blood test back, I'd be fairly confident in thinking that that's no longer a big health concern for me now. I feel like the changes in both the eating and the exercise has brought those physical benefits. There's obviously huge mental health benefits. So exercise is absolutely a mood elevator. That sense of pride and accomplishment, and that genuinely looking forward to something, particularly at the end of a day or something that's just for me, and particularly in isolation, I found to be really useful, really good things. And social health benefits, so interacting with other people, those shared experiences, and just being an active participant in my kids' lives rather than being a passive spectator. So absolutely getting out there and getting dirty with them and crawling through caves and being there to share in their wonder and excitement of the world that we live in, rather than being the park bench mum that, thought, and pre-op I was that. I thought it was enough to take them to the park and then sit down because I really couldn't be bothered doing anything more. Yeah. Look, whilst I have done a lot of this for me, one of my really big motivating factors was my father actually died at the age of 56 from a completely preventable lifestyle disease. And with where I was heading as far as my weight goes, the danger of diabetes and things like that, I really didn't want to do that to my kids. Like, I want to be around to see them get married. I want to be around to see them have their own children and things like that. So all of this, well, one of the biggest motivating factors is to be the happiest and healthiest version of myself for these 3 people and puppy in the photo. Like they are, and those of you that are mums or dads or have boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever you might be, to have people in your life that you love with everything you have, that you want to be, you always want to try and be the best version of you can, the best version of yourself that you can be for them. And that's a big reason why, for me, exercise has not become about what the scales say, but about the happiness and the joy that it brings.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful message, Sarah. That's really nice.
Thank you. That's me. Any questions?
Oh,
A stack, I think. There's one here that I'd like to, well, I think you can relate to probably. It's a good question. What are your thoughts on standing and doing your work if your job is desk bound? And I think we could all answer that one, you know, but as a physical education teacher, you're a teacher predominantly, so you would be sitting down quite a bit at your desk and stuff like that. So, you know, how do we navigate that, not sitting down on our backsides all day, you know, and but our job's sort of saying we should be?
I think if your job is absolutely dictating that you have to sit down and you can't have a standing desk or things like that, utilise your lunch break. Pack your runners in your bag and spend a half hour going for a walk, and pack your deodorant too. But use your lunch break for not sitting down, if that's one of the things that the job dictates. Where you can, instead of making a phone call, walk to the other person's cubicle or office, or
that's right, instead of emailing the person in the office next to you.
take the stairs, not the elevator. Like there are sort of a few, if you catch public transport to work, get off the stop earlier. If you park, like if you drive and park at work, park in the furthest car park from the front door. I think there's a few things you can do to absolutely increase your incidental exercise, we call it.
That's it. It's incidental, isn't it? You know?
The day, yeah.
Fantastic answer, I think, Sarah.
and I think these days there are plenty of smartwatches that remind you it's time to stand up, it's time to breathe.
Time to breathe, yes.
Time to breathe, I love that. Look, Sarah, that was amazing. Congratulations on your, you know, progress and what you've achieved. And I bet you feel like a more authentic physical education teacher right now.
I honestly, for the first time in a very long time, don't feel like a hypocrite. And that's without, like, I'm one to joke and things like that, but all jokes aside, I actually feel really proud of the message that I'm sending to students now. And as I said, I am an open book when it comes to teaching the kids and things like that. And with health, like I teach year 11 and 12 health and human development.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time talking about disease and how that impacts on the physical, social, emotional, spiritual and mental health and wellbeing dimensions and things like that. And I'm really quite open with the kids about where I've come and how that's impacted on me. And, you know, I talk to them about my mental health and how, as I said, I was humiliated to even acknowledge what I did. I was embarrassed by what I had become. And I sort of thought, I've always thought of myself as being authentically me. And this hasn't
Absolutely.
changed any of that. If anything, I suppose it's made me even more authentic. And the kids have been fantastic. So the yearbook came out a couple of weeks ago. And so my photo in the yearbook is from 43 kilos ago. And the amount of kids that have come up to me and said, Miss, one of my year 12 boys said to me, Miss, please don't be offended when I say this, I forgot how fat you were.
They're so honest, aren't they? I forgot how fat you were.
One of the girls was like, you can't say that to me. You can't say that. I said, are you kidding me? Yes, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning going for a walk, and you can tell me how skinny I am now. I am not offended by that whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks so much for that. And I think, you know, your lived experience makes you a more authentic teacher. And I think they'd learn a lot more from you in the classroom than someone who's never experienced any sort of, you know, adversity with exercise and weight and everything else. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Nice.
Dr. Arun, I know you've got one, and I'm looking forward to listening to this as well, because you're going to share your exercise schedule, I believe, and that's something I can't wait to know more about. Since
Well,
you've achieved all your results and you're looking fit and fabulous.
Well, yeah, I guess, what I want to share with you is this has been absolutely fantastic what both of you have shared, because you've sort of lived the dream, so to say. But I think we all have certain nuances based on our experience, based on our knowledge, based on the people that we have followed, in order to really try and get the best routine that we can for ourselves. See, we all have different body types, different body shapes, different requirements based on our diet, DNA, whatever you want to call it, and that is what makes us all very unique. And I think more importantly, as Sarah was saying, like I saw in her journey, she started with running, which she did not really like, but then you transitioned to walking, and then you started walking longer and longer distances. So walking was something that you were naturally drawn to, which is fantastic. Whatever works best for you. And I think ultimately, if it is uplifting, well, that's the bottom line, that you want to do it regularly. So my goal of this brief presentation really is to present something of my own learnings, my own journey. I'm not a PE teacher by no stretch, but I'm a very teachable and a very avid student. And I have been observing this very carefully. But by the way, I also want to say that I'm a certified yoga teacher. I take yoga classes now on a regular basis. And I want to just point out to 3 or 4 different categories of exercises that I have incorporated in my own routine and what results I have achieved. So firstly, friends, as everyone has clearly understood from the beautiful presentation that both these ladies have given, is that exercise is not a good weight loss strategy. So please do not use exercise to overcome guilt of indulging in the night before in that chocolate pudding, or the sticky date pudding, or whatever it may be, because you cannot burn off all the calories that you have consumed. Our metabolism doesn't work that way. And what happens is that you land up injuring yourself, as Danny did. And one ankle injury or one ligament injury can take up to 6 to 12 weeks of recovery time. And imagine what is going to happen if you're just resting on a couch for 6 to 12 weeks. Well, you're going to gain more than double the weight that you were originally hoping to lose. So exercise in the obese group, especially when the BMI goes up, the risk of getting injured, musculoskeletal injuries, goes up significantly. So it's absolutely not a good weight loss strategy. There is also, friends, a lot of confusion around what is the best form of exercise. Some say no, cardio is good. Some say F45 is good. Some say weight training is good, and once again, I understand that we've got experts here, but again, this confusion causes us to drift from one type to the other. And there are some very basic principles that I have incorporated in my own lifestyle, and I'll just share that with you. Friends, there is a word in Japanese called kaizen. The word kaizen means constant progress. It is basically to produce continuous improvement. That's really what it is. And I think what we have heard from both of these amazing ladies is that it's not that how long you can exercise for. It's, as Sarah was saying, the most difficult part is just wearing your shoes, your runners, and that is so true. I often say to people sometimes that, what, before you go to bed, have your running gear, have your exercise gear next to your bed. So when you get up in the morning, it's there. You don't have an excuse for not getting into that gear. Thank you, Danny. So
mine's there.
so, it's about progress. It's not about how much you're able to do on day one. Also, we are not here to become Arnold Schwarzeneggers for all the men out there, but it's not the body that fails first. It's always the mind. And I think if we get that right, that, we get our goals right. And I really loved it, Sarah, the way you put it, that one exercise component is for yourself joy, and the other is for the joy of everyone others, as a community, as a group, whichever way you want to put it. But it's getting that mental clarity that what fits where and what is the reason behind it. So this is my journey, and then I'll share with you what I did. In December of last year, this is in one of the hospitals wherever I was at 78 kilos. That was like a bit heavy for me. I was just a bit heavy in my middle part, and I was just not happy, about my overall kind of vitality. There were things going on in my personal life and all of that, which I knew I was just not eating healthy the way I should have been. So what I started doing was I worked on a routine, and my routine was, we all live busy lifestyles, but what I said was that, I want a routine that takes 30 minutes every day. That's it. That's the time that I want to give, because then I should be able to teach it to anyone else. And I have to do it regularly, like at least 5 days a week. I need to be able to do it. Just like you brush your teeth every day, you are meant to take a shower every day. I need to be able to take time for this every day. And it incorporated these 4 components. Number 1, cardio. 15 minutes of cardio exercise is what I would do. 5 minutes only of stretches and mind-body exercise, which is yoga, which is something that I'll just share with you. Number 3 is 5 minutes of resistance training, which is where I use some dumbbells, which I had. And the 4th is the breath work. See, breath is a very important boost for your metabolism, and I'll share that with you briefly. So yoga, breath control, and stretches, 15 minutes. And this is where, there are different poses that you can do. You can pick whatever works best for you. For cardio, I would use an alternate between cycling, running, and walking. Walking is brisk, and I believe in not repeating the same exercise every day, because if you repeat the same exercise every day, you're only exercising a certain core group of muscles every day, and you become more prone to injury. It's always good to rotate. It's always good to alternate. Yoga for me also means the sun salutation. See, everyone is talking about, Danny was talking about sunrises, and Sarah is talking about pre-sunrise. Well, I say that sun is the source, it's the giver of energy and vitality. This has been known from centuries ago. What we do as a part of this yoga posture, this is a 12-step sun salutation, and it literally exercises every muscle in your body and your ligament in your body. And most importantly, scientific studies are proving that it is a great metabolism booster. So just doing this sun salutation 5 to 10 times, and you start slow. There are plenty of videos out there, and there's also one video of our yoga class that we conduct on a Sunday morning. We've given it a bit of a pause at the moment, but it is there too. So you're welcome to watch that on the YouTube channel. Then is the breath control. There is immense power in focused breathing. Focused breathing, of which this is just one example, is you hold your breath. First you inhale, then you hold your breath to the count of 5, then you exhale over the count of 5, and then you again hold your breath over the count of 5. And you can slowly increase it to 6, then to 7. And this starts to recalibrate your internal physiology, your metabolism. And that is, again, a very powerful way of recalibrating your metabolism. I think I've mentioned extensively about aerobic, cardio, or high intensity interval training. Once again, short bursts. You can alternate between cardio, like running, cycling, versus running fast. But to me, and again, we all have our own sweet spots, that running is a really active way of boosting your metabolism, but more importantly, giving you a burst of those happy hormones that we all get so addicted to. It's almost called a runner's addiction, which is fantastic because it's a good addiction to have. And that's the beauty of it. And this is a little snapshot from my book, which is 5 ways to supercharge your metabolism. We'll not go into diet because that is something that is at the top. But the other 4 things, which is high intensity interval training, mind-body exercise like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, green space time, of which I'm a huge advocate, and Sarah would agree with me on that. And then is reducing your sitting time. And I think that is crucial, and we have already discussed that. So this is my journey. So I am today 70.7 kilos. I feel very fit. more importantly, it's the energy that you bring into the equation. This was with a patient of mine recently who's going to be coming to one of our webinars, maybe down the track. But I was just looking at these two photos and I said, oh my God, you know, like just losing those 7 kilos, I feel a different person altogether. And I've not done it for weight loss because I've incorporated other strategies of intermittent fasting and other things. But I just feel very energized. That's all I feel. The vitality is amazing, you know. And I think when you have energy, you have creativity. When you have creativity, you have amazing ideas by which you can be of better service. And that is what my message to you, friends, is to every one of you who's on this call, that use exercise as a strategy to uplift your vitality and energy. You will start getting such amazing down dumps of ideas and creativity that you will just be becoming a magnetic personality. And that's my message. The last thing is, whenever you feel like quitting, remember why you started. And I'm really touched by Sarah's photo that she showed of a family, beautiful family that you're blessed with, that, you know, you are clear about why you started on this journey. And then, as you also said, is you then make time, you don't make excuses. And I love that bit as well. So good on you, both Sarah and Danny. What an amazing story you both have shared of your personal journey. And again, you can see you don't have to be like a brain surgeon to understand what is the mindset that you need to bring. You don't need that. You just need to have a common sense approach, and you need to tap into the right sources of information. That's all you need.
Thank you so much, Dr. Can I just say what I loved about your presentation is that it's a 30-minute program. Now, if you can't fit 30 minutes of physical activity into your day, I don't know, you know, I just think there's something wrong there. 30 minutes. And I love how there's breathing in it, because, you know, that's time, you know, downtime, you know, as well. You know, and there's the cardio where you're working hard, but it's broken up into achievable times, you know, 5-10 minutes. It's fantastic. And I do believe, Dr. Arun, you have been generous enough to actually suggest that if people would like a copy of your exercise regime, the 30 minutes that where you do your yoga and you do your breathing and you do your cardio, that people can just email their interest to me and I'll send it off to them.
Yes,
is that
very happy.
plan?
We've developed, yes, absolutely. We've developed a PDF sheet, and they're welcome to email you, Danny. Thank you kindly for that, and very happy for you to pass it on.
I'll have one, please.
Sure.
Okay, that's fantastic. No, thank you so much. Look, we have gone over time this evening, but I think it was well worth it. And it's just because you got two teachers talking. Love to talk so much. You know, we cut you short, Dr. Arun. Never forget, teachers love to talk.
Of course, of course. I lay down in submission to teachers, you know, with folded hands. I always say I am what I am today because of my teachers, you know. So
exactly. Always remember that, you know. Do we have time to just to quickly discuss our final session next week and the little competition that we're sort of running, or not?
Yeah, please do very briefly, because
very briefly, we are running out of time. So basically, you might have noticed that I've emailed each participant, and also just in general, I've put a post on Facebook and so forth about a little bit of an incentive for you guys that have actually been here with us week after week. And basically, what I've asked you to do is have a look at the homework that the dietitians gave us last week about the home environment audit, where you look at what type of food you have at home and how you could replace them with more nutritious versions. So that's one activity that I was asking people to perhaps attempt. And the other one was to look at, and I don't know if you see that very well, but to look at basically when you're eating, why you're eating, you know, the emotions going through, just to see if there's some sort of pattern that's not helpful for you. And then looking at that, you can make adjustments as needed. So basically what I've emailed that out to you, but if you haven't got those sheets and would like them, please just email me and I will send them out to you. And what I'd like is for participants to complete those during the week, and then next week, get them into me by next Wednesday before our final session. And as a thank you, three participants will end up with this journal, which Dr. Arun has done, which is awesome. And it goes through so many suggestions about what we've covered in the 7-8 weeks. You know, all about exercise, all about nutrition, gut health, how to hydrate yourself. It goes on and on, mental health and so forth. And also it's a diary where you can actually put in what you're doing, and so you can see, you know, and even you can put in like some gratitude posts and stuff like that, you know, what you're grateful for. So there's so much, it's a wealth of knowledge in this book, to be honest with you. So 3 of you will get that for free, but also I'm offering a consultation with myself as a wellness coach. So 3 of you will also be invited to link up with me for 60 minutes where we can sit down and talk about your journey towards wellness and any areas that you feel that you might benefit from some help with. And so that's basically, very quickly in a nutshell, because we have run over time, that's what we're offering. So if you're interested in that, please send your your homework into me by next Wednesday, and then I'll announce the winners on Thursday, which is our final one on the 18th of June. And it's going to be a great topic, Dr. Arun. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about that?
Very briefly, the topic is somewhat controversial. It's outside the normal spectrum of what people like to touch upon, but I'm bringing on an amazing person who is a close friend of mine. His name is Dr. Rauf Makar, and many of you may actually know him. He's a GP, but he's also a theologian. And the title of this is, Does Body Size Reflect the Degree of Your Self-Love? Now, it may be viewed as a very controversial topic, but I've always had a firm belief that, you know, unless and until you're coming from a platform of self-love, you are never going to be able to do justice to your own self. So I think it is going to be a very interesting conversation. I'm very confident because Rauf brings an amazing wealth of experience and knowledge from his background. And being a doctor, being a GP, and being a theologian himself, he's also a regular lecturer in his own church, and I think it'll be a very interesting conversation with him.
Oh, fantastic. Look, to be honest, I can't wait to hear more about that. So I hope you can all join us. And, you know, as usual, I'll send out the links and there'll be advertising on Facebook about it. But I think you guys are professionals now. You know how to join for the Zoom live each week. So hopefully we'll see you then. And again,
let's
Sarah,
say good night to Sarah's kids, Nat and Izzy. These are our special guests.
Nice.
Have a good night. Oh my God, beautiful kids.
Aren't they gorgeous?
All right.
Your best work to date, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Thank you, Sarah.
All right,
Have a good
thanks,
night.
everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.